Well, how the heck are you, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Wray's Garage. Today, as you may have figured out, I'm going to walk you through my buying experience picking up a used vehicle, from Carvana, and comparing that side by side to a more traditional dealership experience. And I've had both recently. Any of you familiar with the channel might wonder where the Corvette has gone, and that explanation will come later. But this is the new vehicle addition to Wray's Garage. So let me walk you through this and let you know what I found out. So, like any good online shopping experience, for a vehicle at least, you go to one of the aggregator sites for listings. In this case, Auto Trader, Car Gurus, Auto Tempest is a good way to capture them all if you wanted that tip. But I did want you to know I did go to the open market due to there being quite a bit of suspicion that Carvana is more expensive, which I think if you look at these listings objectively, you can see why that's not the case. The difference maker probably in many instances is simply the lack of negotiation, and in some people's minds it may be worth it. What I would tell you is I lost about $500 on a trade-in versus what the dealership would give me, but I spared that in dealership fees on the back end. So like any equation, it's not just as simple as one price tab, and so you got to keep all of that in mind. You can see here's the Auto Trader listing that I pulled up, and it gave you some really good overviews, but what I found really useful, once I'd identified this was the one for me, it had the larger nav screen and whatnot, I wanted to go over to Carvana and spend some more time doing a deeper dive. And they have this really cool feature where, because obviously you're not touching the vehicle, they can navigate you around the vehicle, as you're about to see here, to show you, the full 360 inside and out, and then the various highlights and high points of the vehicle, including the things that don't show up well on images of this size, such as scuffing, scratches, and any defects with the vehicle. And I would argue that they're probably more transparent than you would find in an ordinary brick and mortar dealership. So as you can see here, this BMW i3, which I had identified as a car I wanted, which I would tell you is pretty important to this experience. It would be hard to buy a car having never driven that kind of vehicle, at least in my opinion, for someone who feels the way I do about vehicles. That said, I had driven this, and I couldn't land a deal that worked out for me locally. And so Carvana, whether or not you would have one in your town, will deliver vehicles. And that allows you to access their national inventory, which I would argue potentially gives you a little bit more reach, if in particular you care about turnaround time, etc. As you can see here, the website is very detailed and carries a lot of information about the vehicle, as you'd find on many websites. I did enjoy when I got to the bottom of this particular page running into the original window sticker, which you don't always get in a used market. So kind of showed you how the vehicle was spec'd exactly in BMW terms. So I took a quick glance at that. But anyway, this is the car I landed on, and next steps were, how do we execute the sale? So hit the confirm button and moved into a very odd feeling of, okay, is this really happening? Because I've spent $10 on Amazon this way, but not, this kind of money on a vehicle, sight unseen. But it was really straightforward. As you can see here, it's laid out in a very linear fashion, very straightforward. You will need to upload docs, including driver's license, title if applicable, trade-in docs, etc., etc. I did trade in a vehicle, as I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to go into that aspect. I expect that to be something of a case-by-case scenario. But my documents were uploaded on a weekend, and it was actually a holiday weekend, for me at least, and was available to pick up the vehicle, and everything was verified that Monday for a pickup on Tuesday, which I scheduled, as you can see here. So let's check that part out. Thank you very much. Let's go do this. Does this really start it?
Yes.
All right. This is it, the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning. Crazy, no hands. Spin it around, let's check it out. So shiny.
It's 4 minutes, start to finish.
Whatever detail products they're using, they're dirty. Dirty towels. Hot water. What you didn't get to see there was we took the car for a quick 10-minute test drive and came back and filled out and signed maybe a half a dozen pieces of paper relating to titles, registration, and odometer verifications. So everything was standard there, and that was no more than 5 minutes. Very quick, very efficient. And we were on our way to our 7 days of test driving. And I won't go on about the vehicle itself. I'll talk about that in a subsequent video. This was more to cover the topic of buying from Carvana, and I think this is probably a very polarizing subject, so I'd be really curious to see your comments below and whether or not this is for you. I can tell you Amanda loved it. I could tell you that I really thought that a lot of the efficiencies and the pressures that come with buying at a dealership, if that's not your speed, this will feel better. And I would just tell you in my particular case, I'm going to shop and buy vehicles from wherever the vehicle I want lives. And you know, we'll navigate the deal from there. But I will tell you that this was a feel-good experience. So far, everything went as planned. It was almost too easy, if there is such a thing. And I think that's where dealerships need to pause, because, you know, I remember not a few weeks ago buying a vehicle. I was hours waiting here, waiting there, and some rather shady practices were underway that I'll detail in another video. And so, you know, I think it's horses for courses like everything else in life. Thanks for joining. Please thumbs up. Please engage with this video. This could impact you and people you know. Most everyone buys a used car at some time. So let's start the conversation. Be memorable, be well, and I'll catch you on the next one.